I need a motion and a second to approve the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor? No opposed. Okay, so let's, excuse me. I'm going to be clearing my throat a lot this evening, so I apologize for that. Thank you. And Howard is glad that I'm here, such as I am, so he doesn't have to run the meeting. So let's begin with board dialogue.
Yes, I have two announcements. I was able to attend the PR meeting here at the board office with some teachers and thoroughly got informed of some things that was going on and was very appreciative of their time. Also, the Leadership Survey Committee met today, and we are working on that survey for the district, and it should be good to go here hopefully in the next month.
And I'd just like to reiterate, that survey, you need to understand, that survey is being conducted by the board and being put out there. And the members that are on the committee will collect those and give those to Dolores, and those will be tabulated and calculated and all the data put together by Dolores and the board, and then we'll share that with the leadership committee and give them an opportunity for growth there, for suggestions, and that's the way that'll happen. So I just want to assure everybody that that's the way that was set up and how that's going to happen. So that's the way that'll be.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else for board dialogue? Okay, so let's move down to communications. Ms. Beezer, Heartland Hero, and Jennifer Sykes, please.
Okay, good evening. The first thing that we're going to do is the featured teacher. And she can't stand still. So, our featured teacher for this month is Jen Sykes. What? But you're here for another reason. Anyway, Jen is our lead teacher at W.L. Johns, and truly that title is very deserving. She leads by example. She takes care of the many things that I cannot, because I cannot be in both buildings at the same time. So she has done a wonderful job, and her passion for early childhood is unbelievable. And she does everything for those children. And when we announce the Heartland Hero, that'll tell you why she coordinates field trips and all kinds of things for those kids so that they get to see what happens in our community. So Jen, thank you so very, very much. And this comes from the staff. They truly thought you deserved that.
Well, thank you.
How do I do this speak?
Very, very humble. Okay, so our Heartland Hero, this Mama and Papa, we have adopted them at W.L. Johns. Sandy and Elmo, Karen, have been with the district a long time, and we were fortunate enough that we got the grandbaby. And I was quite surprised at all the many qualities and great things that they could bring to our school. Papa Elmo kind of helped coordinate all the baseball and the fun farm trip that we had, and he also, I guess Sandy talked him into cotton candy for everyone, which I think they're still cleaning the cotton candy out of their hair from field day. They coordinated some great field trips for us. One was a farm trip that was just absolutely amazing and so meaningful for the kids, and it didn't cost the building a dime. And the kids are ready to go back, and so is the staff. So we're working on bigger and better next year, or this year I should say. And they also contributed financially to our field day. They provided a bounce house and, like I said, the cotton candy. And I guess they had so much fun they decided to do it again for Truman Summer School. So anyway, without further ado, Sandy and Elmo, we'd like to present this to you if you don't mind to come and see it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and you're very deserving, and we very much appreciate all you've done for us.
I know. Thank you.
And this is for you.
That's
for you.
You plant that and remember the students.
Thank you guys so much. We very much appreciate you.
And we understand you're a great cook. We want to try it out.
Oh, yes, and I've already put my orders in for this year, so.
Okay. Thank you.
This box is for your plaque. There you go. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Owen, featured staff member.
Faye, did you come up there? I didn't tell her.
Everybody's surprised this evening.
First of all, I have to apologize because I wasn't prepared last month. So this is for Classified Employee of the Month for September. And I would like to just read, these are comments that I got from the teachers at Lincoln. Faye does an awesome job. My room is always cleaned and ready for my students to begin each day in a clean learning environment. Faye is very friendly and always ready to assist teachers in every way possible. Nice job. Faye is always good to ask if there is something extra that needs to be done. If I ever see anything that needs attention, all I have to do is mention it and she takes care of it. Faye does a fabulous job. She is great at her job and a delight to talk to. My room looks very nice. Faye has even already gone the extra mile and scrubbed down the faces of my cabinets and countertops. Faye always does a wonderful job. Faye was very helpful at the beginning of the school year with locating and delivering tables for my room. And then last, not least, Faye is very conscientious and professional with the job that she does. She goes out of her way to make my classroom look, feel, and smell clean. She goes above and beyond what my expectations are. Thank you, Faye, for all that you do. You make my room look so nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next we're going to hear from Miss Stacy Williams, who is going to feature a staff member.
I have classified employee of the month, Miss Wendy Lacey. Now, Wendy has been with the district for about 5 years, SRO officer, and might I say that she's getting married next week.
October 27th.
Yes.
All right.
So we're all very happy for her.
11 days.
Wendy, she really goes above and beyond for transportation. We had issues with people parking or lining up for parent pickup. Just having problems with people going through the parking lots when there's bus time. So I mean the line, it's endless, and I'm constantly calling her, and she always answers. She never lets it go to voicemail, so I'm very appreciative of that. So thank you very much. But I think you're very deserving of this, and I just want to thank you for all you do for us. Thank you very much.
Congratulations on your upcoming nuptials.
He's a lucky man, right?
Oh, it's Mr. Wendy. All right.
Yes, this is Chuck Helton, my fiance. I drug him here, so everybody.
Congratulations.
Get used to it.
All right, and now we have some student voices from AVID.
Good evening. My name is Allie Easter, and I am an AVID student in 8th grade.
Good evening. My name is Alex Ballinger, and I am also an AVID student in 8th grade.
Good evening. My name is Hannah Jarvis, and I am a 7th grader in AVID.
We are here to tell you about our class in AVID.
AVID stands for Advancement via Individual Determination.
Individual determination means that each one of us is determined to learn and do our very best. For example, my determination is to go to a good college and become a vet.
AVID is a national program for college and career readiness for grades 4 through 12.
Here in Farmington, we have an AVID from 7th grade and up. This is our 4th year to have AVID classes.
AVID's mission is to close the achievement gap by preparing all students for college readiness and success in global society.
AVID is presently in 4,500 schools in 45 states and 15 countries.
We were recommended for AVID by one of our teachers. It is an elective class.
The teachers of AVID in our school district are John Bacon, Robert Upchurch, Carla Gibbs, Anthony Warner, and Allison Hensley.
One of our highlights during our school year are the guest speakers. We have interesting people who come to our school and tell us about themselves and their career.
We take notes as we listen, and we get to ask questions. The guest speakers give us a real picture of their own individual determination. They also give us ideas for our future career.
This year so far, we've listened to Dr. Thomas, a superintendent, Ms. Hahn, now in her second career as a psychological counselor, Mr. Reeves, a high school teacher, Mr. Brown, a professional bodybuilder, Mr. Sism, a small business owner, Ms. Downs, a social worker, and Mr. McKinney, an assistant principal and a coach at our school.
Another exciting event that AVID students do is take field trips to college campuses. And this year, AVID students will take 4 field trips. Our first one was to visit SEMO just a few weeks ago. I liked SEMO, and I remembered walking a lot. And there was lots of stairs. And a cool story about Cardiac Hill.
Our next trip is in November, and we are very excited about it, even though the teachers won't tell us where we are going. We are also going to 2 other campuses in January and in March.
In class, we learn many different strategies to advance in our academics. We have been working with Cornell Notes and learning to write thank you notes.
We are also learning about COSTAs, 3 levels of questions. We are also discussing our individual learning styles.
Later this year, we will be learning about even more about such things as critical reading, philosophical chairs, and Socratic seminars.
We also adopt a needy family at Christmas each year.
We will make candy cane reindeer and sell them to raise money to buy gifts for 2 or more families in their area.
We take part in Read for the Record by partnering with preschool and kindergarten. This year, we are reading the story Ladybug Girl and the Bug Squad. We also have partnership with the ID students in our school.
I am glad to be an AVID so that I get experiences that other students don't get.
I like the idea of visiting colleges because I don't know where to go, and now I can start to have an idea to where I'm going to go. Last year, students took a trip to Mizzou, and I heard a lot about it.
This is my first year in AVID. I like this class. It makes me think about the future and what I might do. The speaker I enjoyed hearing was Natalie Thomas because she told me that I should be friends with everybody, whether they are sick or they are healthy.
In 7th grade, we learned the 6 principles of AVID. They are learning about yourselves and others, getting organized, time management, be open-minded, set high standards, and be passionate and positive.
We have the opportunity to continue with AVID in high school. I am looking forward to it, and I was glad to meet the teachers.
This is just a brief description of our AVID classes. We invite you to come and visit our AVID class at high school or middle school if you have the time.
Thank you for listening. Do you guys have any questions?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I really enjoyed coming to talk to you guys, and you were so courteous. And I just appreciate the fact that I could share my time and my life with you.
And we enjoyed you coming to speak to us.
Thank you very much.
You guys did a wonderful job on the report. We'd like you to shake hands with all the board members too as you get ready to leave us.
Okay, so is your dad Joe Easter? Because you look like Joe. Yes, they do, and that's a good thing. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, she does. And Miss Hensley does a great job, and all the sponsors, and we really appreciate it. Good work.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, is there a CTA report this evening? Okay, and everybody, do we have letters?
If you did,
If
they
would
were
be
in there.
Okay, I didn't see any in there. Okay. All right, superintendent's report.
Okay. First thing I'd like to do, you might notice that there's someone seated at the executive cabinet table that you haven't met before. I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Andy White, who is our new Director of Technology. He started on Monday. I wanted to make sure that he was here to say hello to all of you. We're thrilled to have Andy here. He is a Farmington resident, a parent, and we've been out meeting principals on an individual basis, and it's just wonderful to have him here. So I wanted to introduce Andy to the board and make sure that if you have a chance to talk to him, that you take that opportunity. You want to say anything, Andy?
Just appreciate the opportunity, and I'm very excited, and I've already been discussing with a lot of different individuals on where we're going to go with technology and plans that we have. So thank you again for the opportunity.
And welcome to Farmington R7.
Thank you.
The next thing I want to do, I have 3, I'm going to send them this way and then we'll retrieve some for you. I'm going to start to provide the board and the community some highlighting information about what's going to be coming. And these particular periodicals, just you can take one and pass another one down. This particular article or magazine talks about the way that technology is fully integrated with instruction, and I think if you just start to flip through these, it brings about a whole different way of thinking about what we're going to be facing in schools in the next few years and some of the opportunities. We're going to try to be bringing to the board sample items from the new Common Core, which will give you an opportunity to see what some of the experiences that the students are going to be facing. But we want to try to create sort of a foundation for you of just what those issues are. You can keep these. We've contacted the publisher to try to get some additional copies, but we want to make sure that you're able to start to see some of the material that's coming into us and that we're working with on a daily basis. Tonight I think you're going to be really excited to hear the presentation from our principals and school leaders on our achievement. I think they have some wonderful news to share with you. Also want to highlight the work that our transportation department did in supporting the Vietnam moving wall. And we also want to recognize our mechanics who were recognized for outstanding safety the last time that we had an inspection. We got a 92%. And that's exemplary, and we wanted to make sure that we were recognizing them for that. And finally, want to acknowledge the technology department who really stepped up over the last couple of months in addressing the needs that the staff have had as we've been working through. It's been wonderful to see their personal authority and leadership coming through. They continue to be committed and really are embracing some professional development to increase their skills in a variety of areas. So I couldn't be more proud of all of the staff and just wanted you to know that.
Okay, so we're going to move down to the informational items, and Miss Sarah Long and Mr. Matt Rubel are going to talk to us about testing.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to ask Roblyn Hatch to come forward, and we're going to start with the district achievement report. Then we're going to go to individual building reports, and then Matt's going to kind of recap at the end high school and ACT in some of those formats. You have before you in your documents the district achievement report. You will note that there is still the MSIP 4 standards, which is what we talked about, I believe, a month ago. And we did meet 14 out of 14 standards, which is excellent. If they still had distinction in performance, the district would be under that guidance of distinction in performance. I'm going to draw your attention to a couple of the graphs that you find within this report. The first is that percentage of, it's item number 8 under attachments, and it's the percentage of proficient and advanced students. And it's also a little bit misleading because the data is not going to carry over the same way it did up until this year. because they have taken AYP out. So the number of kids that are counting is a little different starting this year, but we do have those comparison numbers. You'll see that we've been very focused on 5 through 8, which was one of our board goals, was to improve achievement in those middle level students. We always see a pretty big dip between 4th and 5th grade, so you're going to see a positive trend in those grade spans, and we're going to continue to work on that in transition activities. We are seeing a little bit of a lag in 3rd grade, which principals are going to talk about how they're addressing some of those issues. And then we have quite a difference in the number of students we test at high school. So sometimes we have an interesting year because we're testing a lot more, particularly in algebra or one of those content areas. And Matt will speak to that as well. Also, one of your attachments talks about the 4% growth in the number of students in proficient and advanced, and there is a chart indicating where those goals have been met as well. I believe that was set for the middle level, but we're all holding to that at each level. And Robin's going to speak about how we compare to other districts and to the state.
All right. In your actual report, you have a chart that shows the comparison of the district to the state level percents. And you'll notice that in all areas we were at or above the state level, except in 5th grade science. And so that's an area that we will look at and try and address. And then I also included in your packet comparison of our district with other MAAA districts. And you'll notice that in that it has Farmington is highlighted yellow, the state number is highlighted green, and then I've given you a 3-year span. But if you'll look at 2012, by and large we scored well in comparison to the other districts in MAAA conference. I did have one error. It's not a huge error, but on the last page, the science scores, the 8th grade level was sorted backwards. So actually, St. Genevieve would be at the top, Bismarck at the bottom if you were to do it the correct way. Sorry. That one must have been done around midnight. And so by and large, we in comparison, we do a fine job here in Farmington.
And we'd entertain any questions just related to the district report. If not, we'll have Matt cover ACT, and then we're going to hear from each of our principals. Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and start with the high school performance report, and then I'll go to ACT. The high school tests 5 areas, and the high school actually gives an end-of-course assessment. So the students, when they're in 2nd semester and ready to take that assessment, they take that end-of-course exam. Those are all electronic now, and as we move forward with more assessments at the high school level, like the American history, like the possibility of geometry, algebra 2, and our end of high school assessments, all those will be electronic. So the need for computers, computer labs, portable carts, laptops is going to be very important, obviously, for us as we move forward. At the high school level last year, we actually went down in 3 areas: Algebra 1, CA2, and Biology, and we went up in 2 areas, CA1 and Government. The Algebra 1 scores at 70.5 put us considerably above the state average and actually 2nd in the MAAA, but it did represent a 10.5% decrease from 2011. And as Sarah mentioned, at the high school level, again, those students that are ready to take that assessment, we give them that assessment. So there might be quite a large variation between the number of students that take the test from one year to the next. Last year's group was considerably smaller in terms of the class size than the year before. So you're going to have some variance in the number of kids that test because we're trying to test the students that are ready. Same thing with CA2. We tested a much larger group last year in CA2, so we had more students that actually scored proficient or advanced, even though our overall percentage went down a little bit. In Algebra 1 also, when you look at the cohort data from their 8th grade scores, we actually had a 14.8% increase. So cohort datas are the ones that a 7th grade, an 8th grade, and then the 9th grade, they took the Algebra 1. So we saw a good increase, a strong increase of 14.8 over their 8th grade scores from the year before. CA2, again, it dropped. We were still well above the state average and still first in the MAAA in Communication Arts 2. We were at 78.7%, and that represented a 1.9% increase over how they scored when they were freshmen taking the CA1 test. So again, don't like to see the drop, but the cohort data was pretty strong. Biology, again, we don't really have a cohort test for that. I mean, we could go all the way back to the 8th grade or the 7th grade, but there's a 2-year span in there because we're not required to give a physical science test as an EOC. So we really don't have cohort data for that information. But the biology scores actually ranked first in the MAAA, and they were at 71.7, which again is a strong score and well above the state average. So again, compared to MAAA and the state, we did very well. First in CA2, first in biology, and second in the MAAA in Algebra 1. On your second page of your sheet, it basically shows those different years and the delineation and how the students have scored over time, and then whether we met the 4% target increase, which we did in CA2 based on the increased testing numbers, and we did not in Algebra 1. We actually tested fewer students than the year before. Recommendations for the high school, and as one of the things that we try to do a lot is have conversations with individual students about their performance, about how they can be successful in and out of the classroom, and how we can provide support. And we try to do that based on the data, summatives, benchmark scores, pre-EOCs, and just their overall performance. We have those, actually we had about 45 of those conversations today with freshmen. We try to start with freshmen after the 6-week grading. And again, we talk to them everything from, when are you setting aside time to do homework at night, which most of the students we talked to today aren't, but that's a positive conversation because now hopefully they will, to when are you going to come in for some extra help tutoring, whether that's before or after school. We also have academic labs in place. We have general academic labs, we have communication arts labs, and we have specific algebra labs to help the students in their algebra classes. The other program that we do run is an on-track program. So we have an on-track program in CA1, CA2, Algebra 1, and biology. And basically what that does, about 4 years ago when we started looking at the data, we started looking at the students that failed first semester and how did they do second semester. Well, they did horribly second semester. The ones that failed, there was about a 90, depending on the class, there was about a 75 to 90% chance they were also going to fail second semester. So one of the things we implemented was a program where those students do not move on to second semester. They actually repeat the first semester curriculum. And through that, for example, last year in biology and Algebra 1, we had about an 80 to 90% success rate in those kids taking that class over again. So instead of missing a full year of credits, they only missed a half year. And again, those students then, that second semester, they would either move on and take that second semester curriculum, or they could even finish the curriculum in summer school. So that's one of the things we have in place. We have a lot of conversations. Actually, I go into the classrooms and talk to all the freshmen about that, remind them of that. I'll go in again, probably here in about 4 weeks, and remind them again personally of that commitment, because again, it is challenging. There are a lot of things going on at the high school level with activities and clubs, but again, academics is number one, and it's very important for them to get those foundational pieces out of the way. You guys have any questions of me and the performance data? All right.
Do you want some?
Sure. ACT, you got the full report this month, and again, ACT numbers were up. They were very strong. 22.4 was our composite score for last year's seniors, and we tested approximately 50% of our graduating class, 135 students. The 22.4 represents the second highest score that I can go back and find in school history. The other one I was telling Mrs. Hahn earlier, I think was 22.6 or 22.5, and that was back in 2005. So the 22.4 is very strong. State average is 21.6. National average is 21.1. And we're working to try to get more students to take the ACT. For example, this year's group, we already have approximately 105 that have taken the test. And the reason I say approximately, unless they report the score back to us as their testing site, we don't know what they actually make on it until we get the report from ACT. Of course, we encourage our students to let us know what they've taken the test and report us as the site. So if they don't score as high as they would like or we would like them to, we can work with them. But I say that because we never, it's kind of a guessing game until we actually get the report from ACT. But that group, this year's group actually is sitting at a 22.45 this year. I had a conversation with about 75 of those students at the beginning of the year that their sophomore year had scored an 18 or above on the plan test, which is a sophomore level test given actually in October of their sophomore year. Well, an 18 typically equates to at least a 21 or above on the ACT. And through those conversations, I convinced many of those kids to actually think about taking the ACT and think about going into a review session and taking the test, because even if they're going to go to MAC, if they get a high enough score, they're still eligible for scholarship monies. To break down the scores a little bit, again, the 22.4 for last year's was 0.8 points higher than the state average and 1.3 points above the national average. When you break it down, looking at the individual subtests, there's a reading subtest, English subtest, science, and math. We actually went up in every one of those areas by at least 0.3. So that was a strong performance. And again, we still tested approximately the same number of students as we did the year before. I also put in there some of the stuff that we've been doing PD-wise at the high school to better prepare our students and our staff for the ACT. The ACT is a little bit, there's a little bit of a game when you take the ACT because it is timed. It's a timed test, and it's very different than the other tests that we give pretty much year-round. So we brought in an expert, Dr. Gary Moss, and his group came in and provided some PD, and I provided you guys with some handouts of some of the different activities that we're doing throughout the school year related to the ACT, because again, with it being a timed test, it's very important that the students try to complete as much as they can, but they can't spend too much time on any one section. So there's definitely a strategy to that, and that's what we provide. We have 3 different review activities that we do. We actually have a traditional ACT class that teaches all of these strategies that's broken up into a math and English section. And the students actually switch. We have an English teacher obviously teaching the English and reading, and a math teacher teaching the math and science. And the kids spend about 3 to 4 weeks in each one of those sections, and then they flip and they go to either the math or the English teacher that they didn't have before. So it provides that individual strategies for those students. We also offer an online ACT prep class that Jane Harris designed that a kid can take anytime during the school day. And it does the same thing. It goes through practice tests and gives them those strategies that they need to be successful on the ACT. And then last year we actually implemented a new ACT review session that takes place the week prior to the ACT. It's actually going to be going on tomorrow and Thursday for the ACT that's coming up the last week in October. So during that, we actually have 3 sessions of math, 1 session of science, 1 session of reading, and 1 session of English, led by teachers in that field that have went through the training by Dr. Moss. So again, we saw last year's seniors, it was the first time we've ever actually increased our scores during the senior year. And that might sound a little bit funny or backwards, but when you think of it, the most motivated students take the ACT early on. Many of our students take it their freshman or sophomore year. And actually, we went into last year with a 21. It was actually a 22.1. So we actually increased it during their senior year by 0.3, and actually had about 35 more seniors take the test. So that was a pretty good accomplishment. And again, the first time in the 7 years that I've been the principal that we've actually been able to accomplish that. You can see at the bottom of the handout the kind of where we've been and where we're going. 21.5 back in 2008, and it's considerably up from there, all the way up from 21.5 to 22.4. So we've seen a good increase there. And we will continue working with the middle school on the Explore test, which is given in the 8th grade, and looking at the plan data and sharing that with individual students and parents, and having conversations related to that, and then using that plan data to have conversations with the juniors and seniors related to that ACT, so we can get them in the correct classes that they need to be in so they can be successful.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
And now we're going to jump from high school to our mastery tests, which happen at 1 and 2. And Kim Anson, our instructional coach, is going to take us through our pre and post data for our younger students.
I am, and I'm also going to ask my principals to come up and join me because there's much, their kids, we work as a team, so why don't you guys come up on the first, second, third, and fourth grade. Then they'll be here to share their data as well. So you have, first of all, we have the cohort data, and we've noticed that for the first 2 years that we took the mastery test, there was a little bit of a drop in our cohort data in Comm Arts and in math, and now we're turning that around to seeing a little bit of an increase there. And when we look at our campus data, one of the things that I look at is that how alike all the scores are. And this year in first grade, we have an 85% overall percent of objectives mastered on the test, and it's 85% for all three schools together. And if you look at the individual campus data, that's only a 4% spread on that for Comm Arts. And in math, it was also 85% with only a 5% spread. So we can see that the students in our community in first and second grade are getting a very similar education across the community. In second grade, we had an 82% average in Comm Arts and in math. We have a little bit more of a spread. We have like almost a little bit over 10% spread between the schools there. And it's not quite as high as our first grade. So that's definitely an area that we're going to be working on is in second grade. And when we looked at those specific standards, it seemed like in second grade it was our fiction, and that kind of shocked me a little bit because they do a lot of fiction reading, and with the Common Core State Standards, nonfiction is going to be their emphasis. So I think maybe we pushed a little ahead on that, or the test is, we'll have to look at the test a little bit, but at any rate, there was a little bit of a drop in second grade fiction in that standard. In math, our first graders scored 80% or above in numbers, operations, geometry, and measurement, and 70% or above in algebra and data probability. Our second graders were 80% and above in all areas of math, with their highest being geometry, which was over 90%. So I was really proud of all of them. So they did a great job, and these principals have a lot to do with that. So, and I'll let them talk to you about third and fourth grade math test.
Okay. Okay. At Washington Franklin, our scores are pretty steady. Our third grade communication arts did go down, but we have that problem solved now because we are going to do, we are doing team teaching this year in third grade. There's two teacher teams, and one teacher teaches communication arts, and then one teacher teaches math and science and social studies. And actually that's been very positive. We've heard a lot of positive feedback from the students and the families and the teachers. So we do feel that our scores are going to go up there because of our team teaching. This is our second year to implement RTI, and basically we have built that into our master schedule, and we're leveling kids off into three tiers. And the kids that are in tier 3 are kids that need some extra help, and they're getting 60 minutes of intervention 3 times a week with individualized instruction, so that seems to be helping a lot as well. It's also helped building into your master schedule, living and learning there. And then we also purchased iReady across the board, and all the students are receiving a diagnostic test 3 times a year. And then we purchased individual instructional licenses for so many kids to get individualized instruction, which is wonderful because they go on there and they can do, the teacher clicks what that student's weak on, what skill they're weak on, and that student has an individualized lesson for that skill at their level, which has been wonderful. Teachers love it, kids love it. It's very animated, very kid-friendly. So iReady's been a definite success, and we'll take the diagnostic again in December, I believe, if not January. So we've actually done a lot of strategies across the board to help us, and I'll let these two ladies talk now.
Jefferson, I was a little disappointed this year. We had a huge jump last year and flattened out this year, and as hers was in Comm Arts, I saw the drop in math, which is the last few years has just been going steadily up and dropped. So again, we're going back to the drawing board and addressing our math students, and what we're doing again, I hate to repeat, is again individualizing instruction totally with the students. We're purchasing the iReady. Jefferson purchased it for all the 3rd and 4th grade students in both math and communication arts. And if you haven't seen this sometime and you have time to come to one of our campuses and actually sit down with the students so they can show you what they can do with this. They have their own little buddy that they work with at their level. It's, as Shannon explained, they take a diagnostic test, it levels them, it gives them lessons as they work. If they don't have that, it goes back and gives them another lesson on that level. They can work on it at their home. They have a password and their number, and they can call it up at home and do lessons at home. They will not run out of lessons, which again is kind of an education for our teachers too, because our teachers were like, oh, we don't want them doing it at home because then they're going to run out of lessons and we won't have anything for them to do when, you know, they're in their state, when they're in one of their rotation groups. That's not the case with IRED. So I've seen in my building so much more grouping of students because when they're in an iReady station, you have time to take a small group and work with them in reading, and then have another small group over here in partner group. So when we did our IPI, which is our walkthroughs last week, we saw so much more grouping of students instead of a large group instruction, which we all know is not what our students need as far as individualizing. And the teachers were all in small group instruction and leveling the students on that. So we're working every day on iReady. We all did walkthroughs today, and you know, there was iReady going on in the classroom. We just absolutely love it. Again, I'm team teaching both my 3rd grade and 4th grade, and I didn't add that on my second page. My 3rd grade and 4th grade are team teaching this year for the very first time at Jefferson. And again, that means 2 teachers are paired up. One's teaching the communication arts, one teaches math, and they switch the kids. And they love it. I do. I think it's, Roosevelt's done it for a couple of years now. And of course we know what Roosevelt's scores look like. So we kind of copied off Roosevelt, and it seems like it is really giving our teachers, they have less prep time, but they become masters at their subject too. So it's been a very positive thing. Okay.
Hi. I just wanted to let you know about the scores at Roosevelt from last year. Overall, in our 3rd grade, over the last 3 years, the scores have remained steady with approximately 70% of our student body scoring proficient and advanced. 4th grade as well, over the last 3 years of MAP scores, you can see that the scores are remaining steady with over 70% of our students scoring proficient and advanced. So that's great news. I wanted to discuss the 4% goal. 3rd and 4th grade met the goal in mathematics, and 3rd grade met the goal in comm arts. So we're going to address some of those skills in 4th grade with math. We are working hard this year to address some of the issues at Roosevelt as far as continuing to make that 4% growth. We're using iReady, and you're going to hear a lot of the same things that the ladies have already talked about because we're all staying on the same page as far as what we're doing. We're using iReady. Teachers are working collaboratively as they talked about planning for good, creative, high-quality lessons. RTI teams are meeting every 6 weeks to discuss the kiddos who are falling in those tier 3 levels of RTI. What are we doing? What interventions are they getting? How can we help this child successfully? We are using differentiated instruction, small groups, and tutoring twice a week. And also continuing to provide professional development opportunities to provide high-quality lessons for our students.
Do you guys have any questions for us?
It's so interesting to hear some of the differentiated instruction, the team teaching, the individualized instruction. It's so good to hear those terms. And I apologize for my phone ringing while you were talking. Well, it's ugly and I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll ask Angie to come forward and talk about what Lincoln's doing.
Okay, I can just say ditto to everything that they've said because we're doing the same thing at Lincoln as well. I do want to comment about Lincoln. You have the chart there in front of you, and scores are either increasing or at a steady rate. With at least 50% of our kids, I'm going to increase that to 55% because any little bit helps, scoring at proficient and advanced. We did, with the board goals, we met it in 6th grade communication arts and 6th grade math. 5th grade is that year where they all come over and all 3 buildings merge together, and it's a whole new world to everyone. And I was looking at our pre-test scores data today, and Dan and I talked a lot last year in Deb Paul's about how to help these kiddos transition after being in a home and you have this mommy-child relationship or daddy-child relationship for 4 years, and then you come over to Lincoln and you're put in this whole new world, and what we could do to help them. And last year there was a little girl, and I will never forget this, who was in a classroom, and I said, who do you have in your classroom that's from the school you came from? She goes, I don't have any of my friends in there. And I thought, oh my gosh, I drug my secretary with me. Thank God she came with me, I didn't want to go there by myself. I couldn't imagine. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I'm really not, but no. But I asked the 4th grade teachers to sort their kiddos, high, medium, and low, and into social groups. And so then when we put these kids into classes, we took a group from Jefferson, a group from Washington Franklin, and a group from Roosevelt, and put them in a classroom together. So at least they had somebody that the teachers felt like they could bond with and have a relationship with. And when going back to the data, I looked at it, and it's amazing how accurate our 4th grade teachers were, because I don't know if you recognize this, Kim, but those pre-test scores are all in the 60s. And I thought that was so interesting because they had that high, medium, low group tagged. They know those kids. And so hoping that not only academically but socially it'll help them as well at Lincoln. Something else, we started this last year at Lincoln. I brought it with me from Washington Franklin, and of course last year was such a whirlwind, them learning me as an administrator and me learning them. We laugh now and say I was speaking Chinese and they were trying to understand it because we were all trying to learn each other's language. But we had at Promise meetings last year, and we had our first ones this year. And I bumped them up to we just finished them last week on what those are, is where we are actually talking about individual kids who are struggling. And we got those permanent records out, and we got that benchmark data out, and we looked at the wholes for individual kids. And those are the kiddos that need CPR or need emergency care right away. So my teachers are diligently working with those targeted kids and then trying to push those other ones up to that next level, especially those kids who have scored in the 80 percentile range on those pretest scores. That tells us that they know 80% of the current grade level curriculum already. So we can't let those kiddos slide and not push them to the next level. So anyway, and then the last thing I want to brag about with Lincoln is my RTI committee. Those ladies and Mr. Green, God love him, he sticks in there with us, have worked there this summer developing something that was meaningful for that intervention time to pull out. And I'm going to sing our ready praises too, because that has really allowed us to drill down to those isolated individual skills that are causing the kids not to be able to progress further. It is a great program. I know my teachers are begging for every kid to have access to it. So we're trying to figure out a way to do that. Each time we get another piece of data, the RTI committee meets every other Friday and figures out where to go next to help our kids. So I really appreciate them and the rest of the staff trucking along and working for our babies. So, any questions?
Angie, on when you got the 5th graders, you tried to meet with them. In the 6th grade, do we kind of get them separated then?
Yes.
And everything?
Yeah, I mean, you know, my 5th grade teachers, they also sort kids too, but we don't want to track them up to be together.
Right.
Although,
well, sometimes they're going to have to separate them.
Exactly.
And I know what you're talking about because I remember I went 8 years at Busick, and then when I went out to the high school, you know, you're going from 60 kids down there, 900 kids out here, you know, it is kind of traumatic.
It is. You know? It is. Well, you know, we had a transition day last year, and all the 4th grades came over, and my kiddos from Washington Franklin, they were just like, oh, we know somebody. That's the way I felt the first open house night. Whenever I said, Dean, you go do 6th grade, I'm going to 5th grade, and because I know some of these kids, and they made me feel real welcome there too. But it really helped to do that transition day because even some of the 4th graders from Roosevelt and Jefferson had that identity with those teachers already, and then we had a luau. So, you know, I hope that helped. Yeah. I hope parents see that helped. Yeah. So, anyway, I'll be quiet because I know we're all hungry. I bet you guys are too. Thanks.
And let me just add one thing. I so appreciate, and I know I'm speaking for the board now, so if you don't like it, tell me later. But you guys seem to get along so well. I know you talk, I know you collaborate, and that makes things work so much better for everybody and for kids. So thank you so much for all that you do. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And we'll ask Dr. Winslow to present middle school. We're going to end right in the middle instead of, since high school is already presented.
Okay, Angie, that would be a cell phone violation.
Yes, ma'am. Put it on my permanent record.
Yeah.
I know I've still got one.
That would mean I take away your cell phone for the day. So.
We got to talk. We got to talk about that.
Your mom will have to come pick it up. Okay, going to the middle school, and actually we had a really good year at the middle school last year. As the first way I compared scores was year to year, and you'll see the 7th grade communication arts and math both showed nice increases. 8th grade communication arts stayed steady, and 8th grade math is a steady decline, and I'll talk about that in a minute. I also did that by index scores. Again, you'll see the same trend. Communication arts, math scores are in 7th grade are going up. 8th grade communication arts is steady, and then the math is taking a slight decrease trend. When I did it by cohort group, and actually to us that kind of means a little bit more, are the kids really gaining the same kids? Again, we see fairly the same trends. 7th grade communication arts is gaining. 7th grade math stayed steady. 8th grade communication arts gained, and 8th grade math again, that same downward trend. So as far as our district goal, meeting the 4% increase in proficient and advanced, 8th grade, and this is just the way statistics are. 8th grade communication arts did meet that goal, and 7th grade math met that goal. So here's some things that we are doing at the middle school. And we have, as you know, we have 2 integrated studies teams. Actually, we have 3 integrated studies teams this year, and we have always had fairly high achievement in those integrated studies teams, and we took a real hard look at that at the end of last year and thought, what can we do in our traditional side of teams that can mimic, can gain, what have we learned from that? And what we've done is something, I don't know, I think it's a little unique, and it's fun watching parents and students and our teachers adjust to some of the new things that we're doing, and we're hoping that it will make a difference. First of all, in communication arts, we are merging reading and writing. Last year and years prior to that, they were separate classes. With Common Core coming down the pike, we felt this was a good move, and my teachers do think that just makes sense. So that is now a 2-hour block. And in math, we of course have our new 7th grade math textbooks, and the teachers really appreciate the resources and homework references to that. But together, some of the things that all the teachers are working on, we don't have team teaching, we have a new thing called shared teaching. And this has been a really kind of cool thing. We have paired like a 7th grade math teacher with an 8th grade math teacher. And we tried to put all of the 7th graders from last year that were with that particular 7th grade math teacher, they're following their same teacher up into 8th grade. With a new 8th grade math teacher. So in classes, we have a teacher that they had last year plus a new teacher that they have this year. The classes are bigger, but then we do maybe a mini lesson and then we divide back in groups. And so we have one teacher in there that already knows those kids, and it's I call it modified looping is really what it is. And that's been, I know, especially with the math, had great conversations with the math teachers because those 7th grade math teachers are seeing what goes on in an 8th grade math classroom and what skills those 7th graders really need to be learning, and the 8th grade math teachers are seeing what's going on in the 7th grade classroom. And it's been a really neat thing to unfold. We've only been in it 8 weeks, and you know, we are all learning, but the hooks and some of those really troubled kids we put that were doing well with some of their teachers by the end of the school year are with those same teachers again, and they know immediately how to deal with those kids. So and then we have one IS team that is looping, and they just hit the ground running. I mean, there was no, oh, we need to get to know the rules. I bet they have gained at least a month of school time in that looping classroom. So it will be interesting to see how those scores turn out next year. So we are also doing IPI, and that is going to be starting, I believe, right after parent-teacher conferences. Our teachers will be doing the walkthroughs and reporting, and I'm really anxious to see them get in there and see what's going on in their peer classrooms, because there's some really cool stuff going on. Advisory teachers are taking a greater role in tracking students for their grades and performance, and I have a little story about that. I have, and almost every teacher in school is an advisory teacher this year, and those kids will be looping with their same advisory teachers. Our 7th grade kids will have their same advisory teachers next year in 8th grade. But one of my advisory teachers who had not been an advisory teacher for a while, and we told them, you know, there's a really cool way on SIS to check grades and they can follow them, and we give time for them in advisory to do that. And this one teacher came to me and she said, Dorothy, this kid is failing in every class. What do I do? And I said, you are his mama. You know, when he comes into school, you get him in there, you have him show you his homework, you ask him, you follow him, you talk to his teachers, you're his mama. And she came to me a couple days ago and said, he is passing every class now. I said, well, you celebrate that. And, you know, that's the kind of things that we are expecting out of our advisory teachers. So that's also been really cool to watch unfold. So the professional development, we are working towards having 100% IPI training for our teachers at school, and that training in itself is all about student engagement. And even though it's trained with the theory that you are looking for that in the classroom, when you go through the training, you automatically think, well, am I doing this in my class? And what do I need to be making myself better? So we are looking for that. We're training 100%. We have about 75% of our teachers trained. We had a full-day workshop by Dr. John Almerode, who is an expert in brain-based teaching, and that was on August 31st, and we are doing monthly PD follow-ups meetings, and those are part of the look-fors when I do walkthroughs. Are they using this brain-based information? And again, with middle school students and the way they learn, it is so important that we use those brain-based techniques. And I'm seeing it in the classrooms. And I mean, I don't see kids sitting. 10 minutes is max that they do the same thing. Then they either stand up or they change an activity. It's really fun to watch that unfold. We had a full-day workshop on BIST. We have a character ed group that is formed. Mr. McKinney is heading that up, and we're looking at character ed, implementing a class in that for the next school year, and continued working on curriculum areas for Common Core. And really, the majority of my teachers are just saying, bring on Common Core. We're ready for it. We want that higher order thinking, and that's what they're looking at. And the one thing that I'd like to say, and I'm going to end with a success, is last year we went through a whole big process called root cause, trying to figure out what is it that why is achievement not progressing at the rate that we want it to progress. And really, when we really got down, dug into the data, we were finding that in one of the subgroups, our SES subgroups, the higher SES kids, they were performing, they were going up and up and up. But our lower kids were just stagnating, and we weren't meeting their needs. And so that's been an ongoing process, and that's one reason we're doing brain-based. We've read books, we've done book studies about it, and I'd like to say I'm just so proud of our teachers in communication arts in both 7th and 8th grade in that subgroup. They have shown gains, especially the 7th grade showed a little bit wider gain than the 8th grade, but they both showed gains, and I'm just really commend our teachers on that, because that was, and I do think that accounts for the increase in our scores. So thank you.
Good job. Thank you, Dorothy. Okay, so you ready?
Matt and Kim still have special awards we have to do.
Matt's done both of his. So.
Right, but we didn't talk about the recognition piece.
Right, we're ready for that.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Kim?
Matt and Kim.
Come on. All right. Step forward. Front and center, guys. Front and center.
We found out back in, I believe, the second week of September that we were recognized by the U.S. News and World Report as a bronze medal high school, as one of the best high schools in the United States. U.S. News and World Report publishes this report based on student data, EOC data, ACT data, graduation rates, students that are going on to college. So again, we were very honored to be recognized by U.S. News and World Report. One of the things with the categories is with being a bronze medal, there's no way with what we do at the high school we could be a gold or silver, and I'm not going to apologize for that, because they use AP scores if you're going to be a gold or silver, you have to do AP. And we made the decision as a high school over, I guess, about 5 years ago that we were going to go the dual credit route, which provides our students with a tremendous opportunity to gain credits while they're still in high school. And as you guys, many of you know, through our dual credit report, we've done great things with our dual credit program. We've got students that graduate every year with their associate's degree. We've got students that graduate with their 42-hour transcripted block, and we've got around 70% of our students actually gain credit, some kind of dual credit college credit, while they're still in high school with us. So there's really no way we'll ever be a gold or a silver, but that's okay, because I think we're doing the right thing for kids. And we've been on this list 5 out of the last 6 years, so I'm very proud of that accomplishment. And we celebrated with a lunch back the last week of September, so I think we're gonna get a sheet cake, which will be. Oh, okay.
We're going to be talking about that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't.
That's
sorry.
Right. That's right.
Chocolate if you guys do it though.
Yeah.
I would just like to announce that around that same time, around September 18th, Roosevelt Elementary was recognized by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education as being a high-performing school, a high-performing Title I school. And what that means is we are providing the highest proficiency rates in English language arts and mathematics as measured by state assessments over the last 3 years. There were 3 components, one of which, to qualify for this, one of which is that we cannot have a proficiency gap of 20% or more between the highest performing and lowest performing subgroups. So this just shows, again, the dedication of Roosevelt teachers, all students, to perform at the highest level possible. So we're proud of Roosevelt Elementary for that.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay, so we are on to discussion items.
Right.
and we pulled D and G.
Right. Jim and the calendar.
Right. Okay. So discussion on those items?
Which one you want first?
D. D would be good.
The roof bids.
The roof
Roof bids.
I think one of my questions, and I think some others may, some of these bids were presented in August, and it's in October. Are these bids still going to be good? Usually they're only good for 30 days.
Jim, you want to address that?
I don't know what the status is. I'd have to get back to him. It's been, it has been a while since they looked at them.
Anything else? Anybody?
My question was, did we advertise this? Did we advertise it in the paper and or the other, or did we just call around it?
No, I just called because the size of it doesn't require us to put an RFP out.
15,000 or more is bid. These are quotes.
I would be doing an RFP.
The only other thing was, like Doris said, Ben's roofing was quote was $921. The Huffman roofing was a quote was in August of 27. Why the big difference between the dates and when we got the quotes?
When I talked to Mr. Benz, he was on his way out of town to vacation in the Bahamas or wherever he went. So it took a while for him to get back and get a bid together for him.
We also had an issue that originally the quotes, we had one quoter that was using prevailing wage and the other wasn't, and so we had to go back and make sure that we were comparing apples and apples, that both needed to be prevailing wage.
Right.
That was where the delay came
That
from.
is actually his second quote because I asked him to put prevailing wage on there.
Anybody else? Okay, any discussion on item G, consideration of school calendar 2012-2013 revision?
On the school calendar, I was wondering, I don't know if it's been discussed before. Has it been discussed on the open house? Possibly having it two separate nights, like elementary one night, next night middle school, high school. The only reason I noticed that because when we went to open house, I noticed there was a lot of parents that was doing the elementary. They're trying to get their elementary kids there, and then you're meeting them over at the middle school, and they're dragging those elementary kids over, and and I didn't know if that's been discussed before, stuff like that. And I didn't know how many. I know there is some teachers that have kids that they're elementary teachers, but they're high school kids going out there, and I didn't know if they, if they have time, they're rushing out there, having time talking to, I didn't. I don't know if there's the committee that does that, talks about that.
We did a survey last year. Yes, last year. In fact, it was the year before for open house. Again, we did follow up last year, asking for input on setting the times and dates for open house. If they liked having it all on one day, or if they would prefer to have it on separate days, and that's why the decision has been made to leave it.
The survey went to who?
It went to parents. They came out at open house and then recollected through the schools, sent over and tabulated. I don't have the data in front of me to tell you exactly what those numbers were, but that's why it's done the way it is right now. It may be time for another survey.
Yeah, on the survey, do you know how many, I know it's probably kind of hard, it's been a couple of years in, how many respondents we had, to get a good idea,
Yeah, survey, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It
Seems like it was a fairly robust number.
It was well over 300. But in addition to the survey, we have a highly participatory calendar committee too. So I know what you're saying. The night of open house, I had people walk up to me and say, you need to have it on separate nights. I had just as many people walk up and say, this is great, we're able to. The change that we made to putting it all on one night originally came from requests from the staff to do it that way.
Right.
And that's why we've continued to monitor it. We can look at it, but it's going to be difficult because we have so much feedback both ways on that piece that it's one of those things you can kind of flip the coin, and that's where the calendar committee has really kind of flushed that out and gone through it. So it's really been a couple of steps. It's been that survey that parents and staff filled out, and I believe there were over 300 at that point. But the second piece of that is the review of the calendars that committee does. So, and I heard both comments that night. Right. I heard we love it the way it is. I heard we don't like it the way it is.
Right.
So,
How many parents do you have on the calendar committee?
At the last meeting, we had 8 in attendance at that meeting, and 3 of those were parents.
So you have 3 people representing the parents in the community.
I'm sorry.
You have 3 people from the community representing the community, 3 parents representing.
Yes, I will say that the parents who served on the calendar committee have served off and on over the past few years. And I did notice that we have a larger representation in the upper grades now, and that has not always been the case. So we may have to go back and revisit that. But last year we put it out to everybody, and I don't know if you remember, we put it out on the website, we emailed it out to people. We're planning to do the same thing for the next 2 years.
Every parent.
And this time,
parents saw it too.
we do know that we can send out emails to our families who have provided us with email addresses. We're going to send a copy of the calendar, and then we're also going to send a survey asking some very pointed questions, and that may be one that we need to put on our calendar.
And also, I guess we've got the 2-hour block for each. Wasn't it for each grade or something?
The staggered for the levels of school,
Yeah,
is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So we start kindergarten early.
Right.
And then we have, 30 minutes later, we have the elementary schools, and then.
Yeah. I know we had a problem over Roosevelt. We had that thunderstorm. We had bukus, or Lincoln, one of the schools I remember. But we had bukus of people standing outside and they're trying to get in, and that was the only reason, because there were some people, like I said, I remember seeing them like at Jefferson or Washington Franklin, and now they're trying to get over there to this other one, and I'm thinking, we shouldn't have people standing outside, and is there some way, that could be.
And we have looked at that piece to revise, but I think it's going to be, we can certainly look at different options. I think the staff is very happy with the schedule because they were the designers of it, but I also have to say I got just as many positive as negative comments.
I agree. I mean, I just know I was wore out by the time it was all done.
Oh, well, yeah, but you go to all the schools.
I know.
It is.
But like I said, I was seeing some of them, and they was dragging kids. I was just dragging myself. There's a big difference.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, we need to move to action items, and I need a motion to approve consensual items with the exception of D and G. God, I sound like
you okay.
So moved. Second.
I'll second
that. All those in favor? Okay, I need a motion to approve item D.
So moved.
A second.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? I'm sorry, I didn't ask for opposed. Okay, and all those, I need a motion to approve item G.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, no opposed. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn to closed session.
I'll make a motion we adjourn to closed session pursuant to 610.021, subsections 1, 3, and 13.
I'll second it.
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes.
Roethlisberger.
Yes.
Thanks, guys, for coming.